The King of Podcasts Radio Network proudly presents the Broadcasters Podcast.
Right.
Here is the King of Podcasts.
Greetings and salutations. Welcome to the Broadcasters Podcast. Thank you for listening in, finding the show, episode 288. We're going to talk more about social media and how it's getting the advantage and the leverage as a result of the Hollywood strike in its stalemate for another week. We've been going on for a while now. Let me tell you, when you look at what's been going on at this moment, what are we, about 3 months now for the writers? We're only a few weeks now with the actors. And at this moment, we are no closer than we were. So we can't really talk much about, the exposure, right? The actors going out, making some big moments, going out to Times Square, going out to Hollywood, and some big actors and actresses are speaking out. That's fine. Listen, great. AFL-CIO jumping in on the board as well. Great. It's that time for unionization now across the board. UPS just got a deal set up. We're getting into that. This landmark watershed moment has to happen. The studios and the streamers are not ready to do anything yet. The California Governor Gavin Newsom, maybe as part of this bid to make sure I guess he's supposed to be running for governor again. I'm not sure what the whole political story might be, but he wants to come in to be a mediator. But listen, there's one thing when you have a politician say they want to participate and then actually doing it. I'm just knowing from the experience of covering the cannabis industry for the last, 9 years, that Governor Newsom, was it last year? Actually, was it this year or last year that he actually talked about once legalization comes in, that he is willing to discuss interstate commerce for cannabis growers and cultivators and dispensary owners. So they could actually sell their cannabis across state lines to, say, Oregon or Arizona, which, by the way, they are neighboring states that align with them. And, they could do something very magical before legalization comes in and maybe do a little bit of a regional conglomerate, like a group of states that can work with each other, almost like a confederation, to do interstate commerce for cannabis. They already can do that right now with Washington, Oregon, California, Arizona, Nevada. They could do that right now. But he said he would only do that only when legalization happens. Well, that doesn't make any sense, because when legalization happens, they're going to obviously figure out interstate commerce. So for the fact that the governor wants to go ahead and make that point, it's nice in stature and posterity to say he would mediate. And probably he could, because he does have a lot of clout within the talent and the studios and the streamers. Obviously, there's a lot that he has to do involved in having Hollywood in his backyard. So he could be. But does he want to get himself involved in that? Only if it's political gain. And listen, I can't dispute that he will do that. If that's what he feels like doing, that's fine. But that's all I'm going to say about it. I don't need to make a big story about him. Oh, all of a sudden he wants to mediate. That doesn't matter. They try to get a federal judge to go and mediate this. They wouldn't let that happen either. Okay? No matter what, no one right now wants to mediate, because the studios, the streamers, the actors, the studios and streamers are not ready to come to the bargaining table at all. We know that, and that's how they're going to take things at the moment. It kind of sucks that the program has to be constantly about this now, but this is a story that's going to be on with us for a while. I wouldn't be surprised if all the threats about lingering this on until the fall, until September, October happens. But things are starting to happen as a result. The Emmys have been postponed. They were planned for September. They're done. Comic-Con couldn't have gotten much more fuel than they did. The issues of scabs and cosplayers coming out there, the possibilities of that, where social media had to be caught up in the fact that don't work with Hollywood. Don't work with Hollywood. Don't work with these Hollywood studios. Don't work with the streamers. Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. Right. But while we talked about them being threatened by the union to not work, it doesn't take away the fact of how unionization doesn't necessarily bode well sometimes for these big corporate types. These big media corporations, look, they're of the thinking where Listen, they want to normally see if that money is going to be enough to keep everybody quiet and just keep them to keep doing their thing. Just dance, okay? Dance or just act. Just read your lines, okay? Study your lines and read them and do your job. And we'll just pay you. No matter if it's not guaranteeing you any residuals from the streaming. Maybe if it's also not guaranteeing you that we might not use your name, age, and likeness in your image in perpetuity for something else. You know, I get it. The studios, their bottom line does not have a human component. If they could automate everything, they would. You know how I know this? Because radio's like that. The corporations, they want to do that now. And radio doesn't have a strong unionization. But meanwhile, there's no money in it. So radio has gone down the line. And radio continues to suffer and dwindle. It's unfortunate. But it can be restored, as I've always said, as long as the corporations end up blowing themselves up. They implode because they can't keep the amount of surmounting debt on their books. Unless these private equity groups are able to go ahead and continue to just live off of them, this practice has to be done. For the sake of the general public, the radio is owned by the public, the airwaves. But these corporations continue to do what they do. In the same way the corporations now, they're reliant upon the talent. Because here's the thing. With the talent, they have to be able to have them, the writers, all the integral staff. They can't do the productions without. They're somehow still making money in the meantime, but they can't make that kind of money all the time. And their stock prices continue to fall. So they have to figure something out. But they're willing to go ahead and take this stalemate right now for a while to take the leverage. They have the power. While the actors, the actresses, the talent, the writers, they're trying to get the power back. They're trying to play this power game to continue to hold on for as long as they can until the studios and streamers give in. The AMPTP, collectively. They finally come back and say, we're going to give you everything you wanted. They're going to give them everything they want. Let me just say that right off the bat. There's no way this strike ends without the residuals handled, the AI handled, the writers' rooms handled, all of it. And my guess is the actors and writers will come to an agreement simultaneously. And it'll be done. Because we're basically in the same boat. And why not? So things are coming to a head, and the studios don't have much else to work off of. I mean, right now, it's the worst possible time for this to have this happen. With inflation, with a lot of economic trepidation, a lot of issues going on. But as we always talk about, it is the digital disruption that caused this. Back in 2007, when the writers took 100 days off to strike, deservedly so, reality TV came in. Well, now the reality is social media is going to win. What the studios and streamers need to pay attention to is they're going to probably start looking at social media now, and they're going to start seeing a little bit of what I've been seeing and others have been seeing anyway, that with tech, new tech, the Hollywood setup as it is right now is antiquated. They were not prepared for streaming and what would happen with that. But companies were more than happy to take advantage of the technological disruption. Sure. So they did it. The actors and actresses, they only come up with this every 4 years, and now we're at this point, and this has now finally come to a head where, that's always playing this game with a strike, a potential strike, with the agreement coming across and saying, oh, we want everything we want, and then most years they don't get everything they want, and usually the unions say, no, we're not going to get everything we want this time around. We got to take the bare minimum. We've said it. They've done it for a long time. Why wouldn't the studios and streamers want to just think they'll just take the bare minimum again? But they know better. They know they can't do it this time. They have to compromise more. But they also feel like they don't have to compromise altogether. Because the corporations are, listen, they're more than greedy enough to say, well, why do we need these people? What actors and actresses really command a lot of money for us? Oh, we can get anybody now these days to go ahead and write a script for us. We can use the AI to write scripts for us. We can use anybody out there to go ahead and do shows. Look at reality TV. Look at all these other things we could do to keep people going. I mean, movies and TV shows still need to happen, but they can probably put something else there. Maybe they could train somebody else. Yeah, maybe they can go and take somebody else and put them in acting school, and maybe these people already kind of have their own acting chops and we can bring them on board. You know what they're thinking about? Influencers. The content creators. Yeah. Like you and me. They're going to start looking at people that are making names for themselves and say, we can just pluck these people off, screen test them, audition them, give them a shot at this. And this is after the unions get what they want. Because after this, I wouldn't be surprised if the studios and streamers decide to be a little finicky and decide to shit on the actors and the writers by saying, you know what? We're going to take some of these content creators and give them a chance. You know, that's the game we're playing right now. Social media will get a chance with all these people that have had a chance to go and do something themselves, writing or acting or doing some kind of work that they did on their own, independently, with no budget. And they figured something out. And they said to themselves, oh, you know what? I like what this person's doing independently. You know, we're always trying to help those individual creators, right? Diversity, equity, inclusion. We can find somebody out of the real world. They're doing their own content. They're doing something high quality, right? They got a good camera. Think about it. I mean, I look at the marketing out there and I say to myself, when I look at fashion designers and I look at particular window dressing, right? If I look at storefront windows, and if I look at billboards, or if I look at, whatever, how many models do you see that are actually like, from a talent agency and they've been brought on and this and that? And how many do you see now that are social media content influencers, right? Beauty influencers, content creators. I look at all the trendy, young, hip, chic clothing stores with disposable clothing. And I see all these different social media content creators. Most of that I don't know. But I see, oh, look, this cute, attractive girl. Here you go. Lola Tang or Emma Chamberlain, right? There's Addison Rae. There's Charlie D'Amelio, right? You're getting all these different names of different people that are just right here for a quick minute. Let them go ahead and have a chance to go ahead and, model some clothes. Get us some interest for people to go to the stores. So if you have young men and women right now on social media that are getting picked out by Hollywood or being picked out by Madison Avenue in New York City, right? Or Hollywood as well, for certain campaigns of just visuals. What if they can get them to act? What if they can get them to emote something funny or dramatic or serious? I don't know, anything. What if they're able to go ahead and be able to be molded into stars? They could be the ones on the casting couch. They could be the ones that also compete on the auditions. I mean, publicity can only ask for so much. These agencies can only ask for so much. But what if Hollywood streamers and studios decide to go that route? The cheap route. No, we'll work our grassroots way. We'll do this. We can spend all the money we want on these other people that we can control. We don't have them unionized yet. We can bring them on to do whatever we want. And this is after the agreements are all set. Like, do the streamers and studios, are they obligated to work with all talent that has to come from SAG-AFTRA? Is that still a deal in place? Or is it just something that if you're going to work with somebody unionized, you have to reach these certain parameters when you're working with them under the basic agreement? They don't have to do the same thing for social media influencers, content creators. They don't have to do that. YouTube stars, TikTok stars. I mean, I'm just telling you, we have a number of stars right now that maybe they're not necessarily that great on their acting chops. And by the way, how many of those content creators probably have gone out for auditions and have probably wanted to go ahead and find a career in movies or television? And they found this as a vehicle to maybe get noticed. Instead of making the trip to Hollywood or New York to try to chase that big dream to become a star. Maybe they worked in Orlando, they worked at some theme park, or they worked somewhere else just for the chance to get noticed. With social media, that can be done right now. And look, how many times have we seen where, I mean, you know, there's people that can be picked up from a play or some production or what they're doing and be noticed and be recognized and be recruited. And social media makes it very easy now these days. So there is a time frame that needs to be considered. Studios and streamers, while they're feeling they're getting screwed right now by their talent and by all the people that work with the talent, they're upset with the fact that we got to go through this right now. And they don't want to deal with the fact that we want to get work back up and going. But they're complaining about this AI stuff. And, you know, they're complaining about the residuals. Like, they should take the money that we give them and be happy with it. It's very commendable what the actors, the big money actors are doing right now to help their fellow actors, actresses, writers to make a better living overall. That the medium income level is better. So it's not such a wide gap from the Tom Cruises of the world to, you know, just some person that gets to be an extra, right? You tighten the gap, you give more opportunities, more benefits, and everybody gets treated on an equal playing ground based on their talent, based on their abilities, based on their experience, based on their acumen, their skills. So we've already had a number of series that are still now stalled. White Lotus, Euphoria, Stranger Things, Yellowstone, Severance are among the shows that are not being produced right now. They're held up. Just saw the FBI shows, a series that was on CBS, pushed back for mid-season. Yellowstone's going to be putting out on Sunday nights. They're going to be running back-to-back episodes of the original series on CBS because they have to put something out on TV. And the actors are out there talking. They're trying to stir things up and get things going. But here's the thing. The actors, you can keep railing against the CEOs and the billionaires and all this kind of stuff all you want. But just to go ahead and take those attacks while you are correct on those, it doesn't make much of a difference. It's just grandstanding. Because you're also, I mean, for those that are also speaking out against the billionaires, they might be pretty wealthy themselves. But I mean, I get why. There's a difference right there. They're definitely taking Bob Iger and just going after him. Why not? But those attacks are only going to be worthwhile. I mean, does Bob Iger care? David Zaslav care? No. I mean, there's just enough of these CEOs out there that you can take shots at them all they want. They don't care. They're all the way to the bank. And they're not losing their jobs at all. They're not at risk of losing their jobs either because of this. And somebody else can replace them, and the same culture of personality will still be there. Doesn't matter who it is. Let's jump into the stories that we have so far about it. So the Washington Post put out a story that talks my language. The creator economy was already exploding, then Hollywood went on strike. Drew Harwell, Taylor Lorenz wrote this, and they make a good point. So now we can see a major shift that could change entertainment and further blur the lines between traditional and digital fame. So this is a story I really wanted to bring up to just talk about it. So as we know, documentary series, reality TV shows came in a lot, 2007, 2008, to make it easier to produce and to be part of the lexicon of what we have all together of TV shows. So at one point, creators saw online virality largely as a way to break into established TV or movies, but now they make so much money selling sponsored content, merchandise, or monthly subscriptions that traditional entertainment, with its uncertain paychecks and relevance, can seem like less of a draw. Right. This is the part too. Hollywood would need to recruit these stars, and they would probably have trouble trying to get them to go ahead and come across, because the antiquated Hollywood model doesn't work, which is why the studios and streamers need to pay attention to this. Because they could just say to themselves, oh, we could throw some money at these content creators. No, but you know what? The content creators are probably going to be smart enough, some of them, to say, you know what? No, we don't want any of that. We're not going to screw with the actors and writers' way of life and their living. And on top of that, we want what they want. So we're in solidarity with them, that makes sense to me. It's one of those things where unionization in Hollywood, I've said this before, broken record, it's necessary in Hollywood. For the leviathans of media corporations you're dealing with, you absolutely have to do that. Goldman Sachs research analyst said in April that the content creator market would likely double the size in over the next 5 years. Currently is now $250 billion industry. One more time. A $250 billion industry. We want advertisers, viewers, tech platforms that are looking to them. That's where they're going right now. They're going to those people on YouTube, on Instagram, on TikTok. Streaming services now account for 37% of TV use nationwide, excuse me. That's from Nielsen. And by the way, the biggest streamer last month wasn't Netflix or Hulu. It was YouTube. And more than 75% of American teenagers told Pew Research Center last year that they watch YouTube every day. Well, so do I. I look several times a day for YouTube. And of course, my content's on YouTube at King of Podcasts. Now, and if you want to look for a link for it, just go to kingofpodcasts.com. By the way, I'm not promoting the broadcasterspodcast.com website. It's still up. But the plan is I'm going to let that, dwindle, because I want everybody to go to one place to find all my content. And you can find it up on the website. I redesigned it, kingofpodcasts.com. Everything I do is on one page. You can find it right there. And then on top of that, you have a barrier to entry for people being able to go and make content themselves. TikTok has free video editing tools. Twitch has their live streams. And that creative competition has led to viral hits, marketing deals, turning what was once an online hobby into $1 million revenue stream for a few. David Craig, a USC professor, Southern California, by the way, who researches creators and once worked as a film and TV producer, he says that studios and streamers will likely try to fill out their release calendars with new deals for influencers' content if the stoppage stretches out. This is what I talked about. So this professor is saying the same thing. Now, you still see some creators as basically brand ambassadors for advertising. They're, in fact, a much more broad and complex class of cultural producers that preoccupies vast swaths of people's attention. Hollywood is still the king of long-form premium storytelling, but if that goes away for the next year, there's less incentive for people to stay on to see old libraries of content, and the industry may start to realize the creators are the only ones left to do business with. Now, I didn't read this story yet. I said what I said because I knew it was going to happen. You could see this from a mile away. They go on to say the worry that creators could spy on opportunity to break into Hollywood's turf has led to some writers and actors to post warnings against undermining the strike on TikTok. And in this Washington Post story, they also talked to someone who started off on YouTube and now has become an actor and writer. They also talked to Paul Scheer in this story that was an actor, writer, director, best known for his roles in League and Veep. And he is now running Friend Zone, which is a Twitch channel where he and comedians like Rob Hobel tell jokes and perform skits for a sprawling digital audience. And they talked about in 2020 during the pandemic, they did a whole deal where they're doing game shows on there. And there was a sponsorship deal that came from Hyundai that also jumped in on it. And Paul Scheer talks about how he had, over 1 million people watch each day for 2 hours. Better than a lot of television getting for ratings. I talked to a lot of the content creators. And the pandemic really made changes right now where entertainment habits and creators' growing influence led Hollywood players to increasingly embrace the power of TikTok and YouTube. You got to take this as well. How badly did Hollywood and how they had to handle the pandemic affect where they are right now? Because you know what? If not for the pandemic and where Hollywood had to get shut down for a couple of years, basically, you could imagine it right now. This is something that really made all the difference in the world, where things just really struggled. Now, 2021, a year after Netflix told shareholders that TikTok's astounding growth showed the fluidity of internet entertainment, the company launched a TikTok-like video feature called Fast Laughs, signed a multi-million-dollar deal with Addison Rae, and they also got Scott Seiss, who was a TikToker who went viral for his send-ups of an angry IKEA employee and showed up in a trailer for the comedy Cocaine Bear. He was an actor in it. He was pretty good in it, too. And then the SAG-AFTRA would then allow creators to join in 2021 through the influencer agreement. Because they needed to make sure they were... Because really, the influencers are starting to become... They were starting to get some of the same calls to auditions and deals that some of the actors and actresses could have gotten. But now they're in competition with each other. There's another advantage that Hollywood was able to take as a result of what happened from the pandemic. But now we're here. They're going to try to get another advantage taken for themselves. But this is where everything has to stay where they are. Duncan Crabtree Allen, one of the chief negotiators for SAG-AFTRA. He's also been speaking a lot alongside Fran Drescher, the president of SAG-AFTRA. The guild is working, he says, to use the strike to recruit more creators into its ranks for both its walkout and what he expects will be upcoming labor disputes with tech giants, Apple and Amazon, having interest in both traditional and the creator economy. Now, creators generally offer a different product in Hollywood, reliant less on highly produced stories than on colorful or inventive slices of life. The contest is nevertheless quite popular because it's quick, free, and easily available. And it's easily captivating for the young audience the media has long fought to capture. Unlike major studio productions, most creators work by themselves or in small teams, and funding generally comes in small installments from ad deals, viewers of the platforms themselves, and many operate like independent media companies, planning and making content, tracking audience metrics, and negotiating brand deals in hopes of competing in a crowded market. The story is very comprehensive, but they are channeling and saying a parallel with what I said just before. Because I'm telling you, content creators are going to get a chance to be given the chance. And this is not because of the threat of what SAG-AFTRA is saying right now. I don't think that's going to happen. But influencers and creators now get to be on a more even playing field with actors and actresses. Because actors and actresses right now, according to the studios and streamers, are disgruntled. They're petulant. They're whining and complaining they don't like what they're getting. Well, let's talk about what they have been offered. Now, there's a story from Puck that I picked up from that talked about it. Hollywood's billion-dollar math war. First time I've ever read from this website, but I'm going to try it anyway. Jonathan Handel writes and talks about now. There's a lot of blasting in this story, so I don't want to read through it directly because there's some stuff that they're saying in here that's just taking attacks, but it sounds like this is from the side of the studios, more support of the studios than they are of the actors and actresses. So at this highly sensitive strike season, no one side wants to look greedy or aloof, but they talk about the demonstration of how it started with Fran Drescher and how she whipped up support for the cause. So the public demonstration they're writing was intended to suggest the studios really are doing everything in their power to reset the system equitably. But in fact, the AMPTP deal points are far less impressive than PR-ready talking points, and $1 billion is an overestimate too. $1 billion sounds like real money, but that's only, $333 million per year for each year of the 3-year contract among all the combined studios, a relatively small cost saving. If you drill down further, there are about 9 members, 5 legacy studios, 3 pure play streamers, and Fox, who will collectively cover that figure in their proceeds. They conclude with the Hollywood labor dispute, Amazon's costly failures, social media rivalries, and billion-dollar risks create a tumultuous and high-stakes environment, and the AMPT deal points are not as generous as claimed, and the actors' strike continues to impact the industry, and that's what they're talking about. Now, there was another story that followed up on the influencers and the content creators that obviously, they were threatened by SAG-AFTRA, and then there were deals that were left on the table they couldn't be able to do. Now, what they did was they talked to a couple of people that already were going through that. Content creators were passing up deals to promote films or TV shows because they want to be barred. They wanted to avoid being scabs. So some of them have spoken out. One they talked to was Deanna Gialetti, turning out promotional work recently that would have been thousands of dollars in her pocket. She's a 29-year-old content creator with 1.8 million TikTok followers and had an offer to promote the new season of Hulu's hit show Only Murders in the Building. Well, because of SAG-AFTRA, she acts and aspires to be with a junior one day, had to decline the offer from Influential, which is a marketing agency working with Hulu. Quote, I want to be in these Netflix shows. I want to be in the Hulu shows, but we're staying by the writers. We're staying by SAG. People write me off whenever I'm saying I'm an influencer, but I'm like, no, I really thought I could be really making a difference here. So she declined a $5,000 offer from TodayTix, the app, to promote Theater Camp from Searchlight Pictures. All right. They talked to another one, Whitney Singleton, 27-year-old with 1.2 million TikTok followers, frustrated by what is being asked of her. And she didn't know about SAG-AFTRA, but she's been using the moniker at Keep Up Radio, attracting fans by singing and rapping about her favorite video games like Fortnite and streaming herself playing video games. Been full-time doing that for 3 years and collaborated with Amazon in the past. She said some influencers were being asked to turn down 5-figure deals, and that's the majority of creators I've talked to about feel it's unfair as non-union members because they're being included in this conversation. She was invited to an early screening of the Barbie movie and said that while it wasn't a paid promotion, union guidelines were murky. And she decided to post about the event, for which she dyed her hair pink. She got no negative feedback. She says it was all positive. The reality for many creators is that they dream of someday achieving a level of fame beyond the smartphone screen, making the threat of blacklisting by Hollywood's most powerful union an ominous one. And there's others they're talking to about it, but like I said, we look at this, and let me tell you, it is scary for some of them, I would imagine. Now, Simone Uba, TikTok creator, more than 300,000 followers, post about TV shows and movies, paused making such videos because she said many influencers felt they were stuck in the middle, and most were opting to side with the union even as invitations and deals piled up. Said it was painful to miss out on posting about the Barbie movie. She and a friend were messaging recently after trailers for the Marvels dropped, agonizing about their inability to post. And she's saying she's prepared to hold out for months, but already thinking of holiday releases. Please, please, she says, don't let it get to Christmas. I got to take a minute and do talk about the fact that Barbenheimer, I did watch Oppenheimer on Friday. Loved it. That was a 3-hour movie that went by so fast. Christopher Nolan really hit it out of the park. Cillian Murphy was fantastic. I had no doubt it was going to be great. Florence Pugh was great in it. Emily Blunt was great in it. Robert Downey Jr. Damn. What a performance. That guy needs to be... If there's anybody that gets an Oscar out of this, Robert Downey Jr. for playing Strauss, best supporting actor. That guy should get it. What a twist in that, man. I mean, of course, the story we knew we could have found out about, but it was really for what it was worth. It was great. Another part of the industry that's getting hurt right now are the publicists. And publicists were holding an urgent meeting with SAG-AFTRA discussing financial woes as actors stopped doing press. More than 350 of them talked to the leadership And the Q&A that they did on Zoom covered everything from fall film festivals to more existential matters. How are small talent PR firms expected to survive when the clients are forbidden to do press? I mean, that sucks for them. Trust me, I understand. I work with enough PR firms out there, and right now things are pretty rough because I have several major cannabis PR or firms that represent a number of cannabis clients. And I'll tell you, man, I've watched so much about enough people that I know that I've worked with in the industry for 5+ years that are being let go. And I'm like, it's a shame. Layoffs are getting bad. And I hope they find themselves where they can be, where they can continue to thrive. Because there's been some really good people we lost in that PR firm, in the PR end. That's really sucks for that. Now, Duncan Crabtree Ireland spent the majority call explaining waivers that have been granted to select independent films or TV series. But first and foremost, he's insisting that publicists are not referred to these deals as waivers, but as interim agreements. Hundreds and hundreds of applications for these temporary reprieves, he said, but none have been issued yet for talent specifically to hit red carpets or interview studios at the upcoming Venice, Toronto, or Telluride film festivals. There could be exceptions, though. Prestigious awards like Lifetime Achievements, which would not focus solely on a specific project, and the union would not consider it struck. Now, somebody was asking him about the damaging financial impact the strike would have on the personal publicity sector. Quote, he says, "We feel sorry for that impact, but we're on strike. We're on strike because our members are fighting for their professional lives, but there will be collateral damage." Right. The PR people, there's nothing we can do about that. What the PR people need to do is get the studios that they connect with to get them to mediate. Because actually the PR people should be the ones trying to get the studios and streamers to the bargaining table again. Get them back over. Talk to them regularly. That's what needs to happen. Many indie PR companies count on retainer fees from actors as their sole source of revenue. Some other ones that are out there are NCMPK, Sunshine Sachs Morgan, Lillis, ID are broadly diversified with sports, music, and brand representation. But some of these others don't have the same thing. But that's one other issue that's going on right now, which is concerning, but what are you going to do? Now, the strikes, we're already learning so far, are going to affect a number of cancellations for streaming. So let's learn about that. The Rap writes about this. So a new survey from Whip Media talked to subscribers of streaming services, and the majority said they were much more likely to cancel the service if the concurrent Hollywood strikes significantly delay the release of new content. If there's not new content, they're canceling. They're going to cut them off. This is true for the top 8 streaming services in the U.S., Amazon's Prime Video, Apple TV Plus, Disney Plus, Hulu, Max, Netflix, Paramount Plus, and Peacock. Hulu was a service that saw the biggest spike in the likelihood that customers would cancel subscriptions. Hulu subscribers are 3 to 4 times more likely to drop the service due to strike-related delays. Not just Hulu, Prime Video and Max would also get the same odds as well. Netflix was the only service that didn't see a 100% increase in likelihood if subscribers would cancel their plans. But Netflix has an overall stickiness with viewers. Listen, for whatever reason, Suits is now is a viral show again. And it's been off for a couple of years. It's a great show, don't get me wrong. But no, come on. It's been gone. Meghan Markle's been gone. She's now a princess, all right? Get out of there. Or the Duchess, Duchess. So that right there is concerning for the streamers. How long will they let things go because here's the thing, man. What would happen if the actors and actresses said, you know what? Boycott. Cut your service from the streamers as a result of streaming residuals. Imagine if they were able to get themselves to get that point across. If they were able to get their fans to stop streaming, to cut them off from there. Could you imagine if they decided to do that? Because remember, they're not making that many on residuals on there anyway. So what if they decided to do that? I would be concerned if that happens. I would be concerned of that. Now, what are we going to get as a result? Well, what we're looking at right now, New York Times talks about that Hollywood strikes already mean a steady diet of reruns, game shows, and reality TV. What we're already seeing in the summer will probably continue. So the days of peak TV and 600 scripted news shows a year are officially over, unlikely to return. Broadcast networks are going to feel the effects first. So, no returning episodes of Grey's Anatomy, Abbott Elementary come September. They're going to get reruns, old movies, reality and game shows. So, Somebody Real of Fortune, Judge Steve Harvey, 2 spinoffs of The Bachelor. Fox is going to have we'll have animated reality and unscripted shows, a new game show called Snake Oil, hosted by David Spade. Really? Wow. CBS is going to have a reality series. They're going to bring Yellowstone to network prime time. They're going to import the British version of the sitcom Ghosts, and they're going to bring it back to TV. NBC is going to have a show from Canada called Transport. They're going to air. And unscripted shows and new repeats of Magna PI have already been filmed. They're also going to air. They're going to move it up from the spring of next year. Netflix says the final season of The Crown and new series of popular hits like Virgin River Heartstopper would premiere this year. HBO still has True Detectives yet to premiere this year. The Regime, starring Kate Winslet, will premiere in 2024. House of the Dragon has not been affected by the actors' strike and still remains scheduled for next year. HBO and their Max streaming service still feels the effects of a prolonged walkout. Writer strike forced the production of the new Max Batman spinoff, The Penguin, to shut down partway through filming. White Lotus and Euphoria are pushed back to 2025. Stranger Things to 2027, we heard, right? Yellowstone and Severance also suspended production. And Netflix already said they would have an initial $1.5 billion in cash flow because of the strikes. They wouldn't have had to spend money on new series orders and productions for American TV series. So, yeah. Now, there's the part also that the studios and streamers, they're not hurting by this at all. You know, they're just going to be able to move along anyway. And that's fine for them. Netflix can still rely on a steady supply of unscripted shows and international shows and a deep library of content, for example. Meanwhile, the other streaming services can't really say that. Netflix, of course, they don't work with anybody. They'll make their deals with unions as they do. They're not with an AMPTP set up. They move on their own dime. So they kind of keep themselves insulated, and they kind of are able to go and protect themselves from what goes on out there, which needs to make you realize what Netflix really is. Remember, it's just a repository. You're not necessarily going to get quality content. You're just going to get content that you can watch. Slightly better than Tubi, as a matter of fact. A couple of music stories I want to get to before we wrap things up. Nothing on radio this week. Kind of quiet. I found a story from musicradar.com that got my interest. Duran Duran's John Taylor, the guitarist, damn good one, talked about the musicianship in contemporary pop music has become too simplistic. So let's see what he says. He says now of the charts in 2023, quote, I think the average listener's ears are becoming more attuned to ever greater simplicity and every greater economy in music. That modern music is too simple. He says, if you listen to Motown bass lines, that incredible musicality that James Jamerson would bring to his parts, nobody wants to hear that today. They just don't want to hear that. And I understand that because, in a way, we've got a lot going on, all of us. So to let a piece of music into our seriously overcrowded minds, it's got to cut to the chase. So he's making a point about the way people consume music in the midst of so much added noise in the internet age. He's not wrong there. Because I'll tell you, just tonight I was listening into one of my music lists, which, by the way, the music I listen to on Spotify, I curate it, and I have all the lists on my website, kingofpodcasts.com. You can actually find 4 different music playlists that I put together, and I update them weekly. There are 3 of them that actually really regularly update, and there's one that's an older playlist, A lot of great music in there from the start of the rock and roll era up to the very early 90s, which I do add some extra music from time to time when I find some of the things that have not been added to the list. But there's that. kingofpodcasts.com if you want to check that out. SiriusXM in the news. They were dealing with royalty issues. A high-stakes battle over the performance rights and pre-1972 sound recordings, which obviously SiriusXM plays a lot of older music on their channels. So it was a series of suits ruling. The federal judge on Wednesday, ruled that Pandora will not have to face a class action alleging it violated state copyright laws by failing to pay for the reproduction and public performances of these recordings. These were filed by Flo and Eddie, the 60s artists that made up the Turtles, right? They were asked whether laws from certain states, including California, New York, and Florida, provide owners of works an exclusive right of public performance to which artists are entitled to royalties. And so federal circuit and state Supreme Courts answer with a resounding no. And that's it, man. Done. Just like that. I'm going to leave it right there. That's the show for tonight. And I appreciate all of you for jumping in and checking out the show with me, as we always do here on the program. I hope I get to talk about something more than just the strike next week. It will be really nice. I would love the strike to be done, but of course that's not going to happen. But, we can always hope for the best. But that's the show for tonight. Thanks for listening in, finding it as you always do. If you haven't done so, like I said, I have the website now, which has all of my content. That's the Wrestling is Real podcast. I've been doing that for 10 years plus. This show, the Broadcasters Podcast, and Depraved and Debaucherous, which is all society, dating, culture. I hope you get a chance to sample all the shows I have under the umbrella of the King of Podcasts radio network. And of course, all my music programming, you can also find it there on the website. I got more things I need to add on there, but that's just for a start. So I appreciate all of you checking the show out. Make sure if you haven't done so, please go over to Apple or Spotify, and make sure if you haven't done so, please go ahead and rate and review the show. Please give it a 5 stars if you wouldn't mind. I'd really appreciate it a lot. That would be really wonderful and incredible of you to do. And other than that, find the show where you find podcasts. If you need a place to go to find everything I'm doing and find the show, please go to kingofpodcasts.com with an S at the end. And find me on X, not Twitter, X, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and Trends at King of Podcasts. And please go to the YouTube channel. Make sure you subscribe. I would really appreciate that. Please like the video if you're watching the show or, listening to it on the video. Please do that for me. I would really appreciate it. Until next week, remember that content is king and the control of your content is in your hands.